From this exact second onward, everything slows because heaven itself is leaning in toward you, commanding your attention with a gravity that cannot be ignored, halting your inner rush and silencing the noise around you so you can hear what has been forming long before you ever realized it. Because this is not a casual moment, not a passing inspiration, not another voice competing for your focus, but a divinely appointed intersection where eternity brushes against your now. And the truth is that before your name was ever spoken by human lips, before your story unfolded through joy and heartbreak, before your strength was tested and your hope stretched thin, you were already known in fullness, already seen in clarity, already chosen with intention in what you are feeling right now. The pressure in your chest, the subtle trembling in your spirit, the sense that something significant is pressing forward, is not confusion or collapse, but the unmistakable sensation of alignment. The moment when what has been hidden inside you begins to rise because the time has arrived. And you wondered, didn't you, in those quiet stretches when exhaustion weighed heavier than words, whether your effort mattered, whether anyone noticed the invisible labor of your faith, whether your silent perseverance was wasted? But every step you took was observed. Every burden you carried registered deeply. Every tear you refused to let fall was counted. Every battle you fought without applause echoed loudly in realms you could not see. Because there was never a second when you were overlooked, never a moment when your pain went unacknowledged, and the path that led you here was not coincidence or luck or algorithmic chance. It was designed, woven, scheduled into existence itself because this connection was prepared for you long before you ever sought it. And the stirring you feel now is not emotional manipulation or fleeting inspiration. It is recognition. It is truth resonating with something ancient and authentic inside you. It is heaven confirming that these words are meant specifically for you, not as entertainment, not as background noise, but as activation. And what feels like tension is actually the energy that precedes revelation, the same kind of intensity that exists just before life breaks forth. Because creation always carries pressure before release, and the resistance around you intensified precisely because what is being awakened through you is far greater than what has tried to stop you. So remain present. Do not silence the inner knowing that is nodding along with truth. Because dismissing this moment would mean missing a convergence that will not present itself in this exact form again. And even now, as these words settle into you, unseen chains are loosening, internal walls are cracking, false identities are losing their authority, shame is slipping off, anxiety is weakening its grip, and the story you were told about who you are is being rewritten from the inside out. And this unfolding asks something of you. Not perfection, not performance, but trust, willingness, conscious agreement. Because readiness is not passive, it is declared. And your decision to stay engaged, to lean in, to remain until the end carries more weight than you realize. Not just for you, but for others whose confirmation is tied to your obedience. And what you are receiving now is not information, but nourishment. Not motivation, but transformation. And the only question that matters is whether you will allow the one who knows you completely to finish what has already begun within you. Because the strain behind your eyes, the heaviness you masked so well, the longing you carried without complaint was never invisible. The one who shaped you in secret was closest to you in your loneliest hours, present in the car you sat in delaying your entrance, present when a single sentence shattered your sense of safety, present when you looked at your reflection and barely recognized yourself. And though you smiled outwardly and kept showing up, inside you felt fragile, fragmented, worn down by responsibilities that were never meant to be borne alone. And you believed effort alone would eventually produce relief, only to find yourself depleted and wondering if you had been forgotten. But silence was never absence. It was preparation, because while you perceived stillness, an intricate alignment was unfolding. People were being positioned, doors were being timed, resistance was being accounted for, and the barren stretch you walked through was not punishment, but refinement. The quiet place where distractions were stripped away so your true self could be strengthened. Because throughout history, the most profound awakenings have occurred in hidden places, in seasons of isolation that looked empty, but were actually sacred because pressure reveals authenticity. Hardship builds capacity, and your lowest moments did not signal disfavor but readiness. Every sleepless night expanded your endurance. Every heartbreak deepened your compassion. Every challenge fortified your resilience. And you are not behind schedule. You are exactly where you need to be for what is unfolding now, because the very circumstances that threatened to unravel you were used to make you whole. And when something extraordinary is about to be expressed through life, that life is first stretched, tested, refined, and you survived what should have broken you. Not by accident, but by design, because something inside you refused to quit. Even when you whispered that you could not go on, a quiet strength rose again and carried you forward. And that strength was not self-generated, it was infused. And now a turning point has arrived. Constraints are loosening, burdens are lifting, entanglements are unraveling. Long-awaited answers are emerging from obscurity. Sorrow is giving way to joy you have not yet tasted, and new paths will open that you could never have forced. Relationships will realign without manipulation. Clarity will replace confusion without effort. Because this is how divine promise becomes lived reality. And this transformation is not only happening around you, but within you, shaping you into a truer expression of who you were always meant to be, strengthening your spirit, softening your heart, sharpening your focus, and deepening your awareness of dependence on a source greater than yourself. And the very experiences that nearly destroyed you are becoming the testimony that will sustain others. Because survival was never the goal. Emergence was, and when the breakthrough becomes visible, you will look back and understand why the delay was necessary, why the pain was intense, why endurance mattered. Because what felt like abandonment was actually intimacy. What felt like being held back was being held close. And even now, something irreversible is shifting. The pressure you feel is not an ending, but the unmistakable signal of a beginning. Because release always precedes expansion, and the atmosphere around you is changing. Resistance is weakening. Opposition is fracturing. And in unseen dimensions, decisions have been recorded that override your past mistakes and cancel false verdicts. Not because you earned them, but because favor was decided, and attention is being directed toward your provision, your protection, your household, your future, because you are not anonymous. Your name is known, your life is seen, your purpose is acknowledged, and timing that once frustrated you is revealing itself as precision, delays as safeguards. And you are standing on the edge of comprehension, because within days you will recognize a sign that cannot be explained away. An unmistakable confirmation that arrives through words, insight, opportunity, or peace that you did not manufacture. And it will not be the culmination, but the ignition. Because within weeks, tangible support will shift, resources will move, stalled progress will resume, financial pressure will ease. Solutions will appear, not merely to satisfy desire, but to demonstrate provision. Because you are being moved from survival into overflow, from scarcity into sufficiency that can bless others. And this shift reaches deeper than circumstance into identity, releasing labels that never belonged to you, healing internal narratives shaped by pain, because resistance escalated precisely because proximity increased. And the moment you are nearest to fulfillment is often the moment opposition is loudest. But you remain. You did not walk away. You stayed through doubt, through tears, through silence. And what was intended to derail you is now being used to elevate you, because resolution has been declared, and nothing that tried to limit you can prevail. And now participation matters, because belief that never moves fades. So speak agreement, bring alignment to your environment, release what ties you to former seasons, extend this message to others whose confirmation is connected to your action. Because generosity activates circulation, release creates space, and obedience accelerates clarity. And do not delay, because this window carries momentum. And as resistance attempts one final distraction, remember what has already been set in motion cannot be reversed, because peace is settling into your thoughts. Clarity is sharpening your decisions. Rest is returning to your body. Balance is being restored. Relationships are being healed. Provision is being released. Hope is being renewed. Vision is expanding, and daily practices of awareness, gratitude, stillness, kindness, and affirmation will anchor this shift into lived reality. Because you are not stepping forward uncovered or uncertain. You are stepping forward prepared, supported, guided, and this new phase has already begun. And you have cried privately, waited faithfully, questioned quietly. But every tear was witnessed, every prayer registered, every moment of endurance recorded, and what felt like delay was preparation. What felt like loss was protection. And now truth is displacing deception. Identity is displacing insecurity, and light is displacing confusion. Because you carry something necessary, something impactful, something the world requires. And opposition tried to convince you otherwise through circumstances and voices. But those lies are dissolving, and acceleration is beginning. What once took years will compress into months. Months into weeks, weeks into days. Restoration of lost time is underway. Multiplication of effort is occurring, and signs will emerge rapidly. Communications will arrive. Opportunities will surface. Calm will replace concern. Healing will occur. Provision will flow. Connections will align. Companions will appear. Guidance will be offered, and you will feel strength returning at your core. Peace quieting your mind. Order forming ahead of you. And this is not chance but alignment. And ease will mark your steps. Favor will accompany your requests. Doors will open without strain, and though distraction will attempt to reassert itself, clarity will prevail because protection surrounds you. Guidance directs you, and nothing assigned to harm you can succeed. And now deliberate action matters. Declaring truth aloud, cleansing your environment, sharing this activation with those whose journeys intersect with yours. Because readiness responds quickly and delay forfeits momentum. And this moment carries consequence because what is prepared will be received by those who are willing, and your story is ready to unfold. Your joy ready to emerge, your path ready to clear. But it requires your agreement, your movement, your trust. And as these words settle into you, they are working, activating, aligning, and you are invited to step forward consciously, affirming acceptance, carrying peace, moving with confidence, knowing you are accompanied, guided, and supported. And this is not the end, but the beginning of what has been prepared for you. And as you go, remember that this awakening is meant to be shared because others are waiting for the light you now carry. And this journey continues as you return often to stillness, awareness, and alignment, stepping fully into what has already been set aside for you because you are ready, you are chosen, you are seen, and the moment has arrived. And as you carry that knowing forward, feeling it settle into your breath and posture and choices, understand that the shift you just sensed does not fade when the words end, because what has been activated now begins to stretch itself through every layer of your awareness. And you may notice that even as you return to ordinary motion, standing up, walking, touching familiar objects, there is a subtle difference in how the world meets you, as if the air itself has learned your name and is responding differently. And this is because alignment changes perception before it ever changes circumstance. And right now, your perception is being recalibrated so that you can finally see yourself without the distortion that pain, disappointment, comparison, and long seasons of waiting placed over your vision. Because for so long, you evaluated your worth through outcomes, through timelines that never matched your effort, through doors that closed without explanation, through people who walked away without clarity. And each of those experiences quietly trained you to question yourself, to lower your expectations, to shrink your hope just enough that disappointment would hurt less. But that shrinking was never protection. It was a temporary shelter you built while you endured what you were never meant to carry permanently. And now that shelter has served its purpose, because the season of hiding is ending and the season of standing is beginning. And you will feel moments of unfamiliar vulnerability as you let yourself hope again, because hope after disappointment requires courage. Yet courage is exactly what is being restored to you now. Not the loud, dramatic kind that announces itself, but the steady courage that allows you to expect good again without bracing for impact. The courage that lets you believe that what is coming will not be taken from you. The courage that stops rehearsing loss before joy even arrives. And this courage is forming quietly, anchoring itself into your nervous system, into your thoughts, into the way you respond to uncertainty, because you are no longer bracing. You are receiving. And this internal posture shift is what allows the external flow to finally move freely. Because resistance was never only outside of you. Some of it lived inside as self-protection, as hesitation, as learned caution, and that caution kept you alive. But it was never meant to lead you. And now leadership is transferring back to trust. And trust does not mean blindness. It means confidence in timing, confidence in guidance, confidence that you are no longer walking alone trying to decipher every sign by yourself, because direction is being made clear step by step, not all at once, but enough to keep you moving without fear. And you may notice that decisions which once felt heavy now feel lighter, that choices which once paralyzed you now invite you forward, that the constant internal debate quiets just enough for clarity to speak. And this is not because your life suddenly became simple, but because your alignment has become stronger than your doubt. And when alignment leads, confusion loses authority. And as this deepens, you will begin to see patterns that once looked like chaos reveal themselves as choreography. Moments that seemed random connecting into a larger narrative. And you will realize that even the detours served a purpose, because they taught you discernment, empathy, patience, boundaries, and resilience, qualities you will need in the next phase. Because what is opening to you now carries responsibility along with blessing, influence along with provision, and capacity along with opportunity. And this is why preparation took time, because receiving without capacity creates collapse. But you were being expanded from the inside long before the outside reflected it. And now that internal expansion has reached the point where it can finally be matched externally. And this is when momentum accelerates, not chaotically but intentionally, because speed without stability destroys, but speed with grounding multiplies. And grounding is what you have been quietly developing through every unanswered prayer, every delayed result, every moment you chose integrity over shortcuts, every time you stayed soft when hardness would have been easier. And softness is not weakness. It is permeability, the ability to receive without resistance. And this permeability is what allows guidance, provision, creativity, and connection to flow through you rather than stop at you. Because you were never meant to be a reservoir that hoards. You were meant to be a channel that circulates, and circulation is beginning now. And as it does, you may feel emotions surfacing that you thought were already resolved. Moments of grief, flashes of anger, brief sadness without clear cause. But do not be alarmed, because these are not setbacks. They are releases, the final unprocessed layers leaving your system. Now that safety has been established, because the body does not release pain until it believes stability is present and stability has arrived, which is why the release can finally occur, and letting these emotions pass through without judgment will create even more space for joy to enter. Not the superficial joy that depends on circumstances, but the grounded joy that exists alongside responsibility, purpose, and growth. And this joy will feel different than before, quieter but deeper, steadier but stronger. And it will not need constant stimulation to survive, because it will be rooted, and root systems are invisible before they are undeniable. And you are currently in the stage where roots have grown deep enough that visible growth can finally surge upward without fear of collapse. And this upward movement will begin to show itself in practical ways, in conversations that open doors, in ideas that arrive fully formed rather than fragmented, in invitations that align with your values rather than test them, in financial movement that feels supportive rather than stressful, in opportunities that recognize your worth without you having to prove it. And when these things begin to happen, part of you may feel surprised, another part may feel relief, and another part may feel a quiet recognition that says, this makes sense now because your spirit already knows this timing. It has been preparing for it. And preparation always precedes manifestation, even when manifestations seem delayed. And as this unfolds, you will also notice that your tolerance for misalignment decreases. Things that once drained you will no longer be sustainable. Environments that once felt familiar may suddenly feel heavy. Conversations that once felt normal may now feel empty. And this is not judgment,